How dare you? You never had a baby. Your wife had a baby, but you never had a baby. So you know nothing about this. And how dare you? And women, you heard how he thinks of you.
Yeah.
This is not good for you, JD.
JD Vance stood in front of a sea of confused interns and lobbyists, confidently declaring that the real problem with America wasn't inflation, climate change, or billionaires dodging taxes. No, it's women who don't have children. He said, and I kid you not, that childless women are a problem for democracy. Because apparently women who dare to have independence, disposable income, and a furry companion instead of a crying baby are the new national threat. But Whoopi, she wasn't having it. The moment those words left JD's mouth, she didn't just raise an eyebrow, she raised hell. Let's be honest, Whoopi Goldberg has seen it all. She survived The Color Purple, hosted the Oscars, sparred with Meghan McCain, and endured 27 years on The View. She's been through wars, pandemics, and Barbra Walters' mood swings. So when she heard that JD Vance was blaming America's downfall on women with cats, her face transformed into a look that could melt steel and likely did somewhere in Ohio.
There are people who have chosen not to have children for whatever reason. There are people who want to have children.
You could feel the oxygen get sucked out of the studio like JD Vance's approval rating at a Beyoncé concert. She wasn't just calling him out, she was reading him for absolute filth. There are women who have chosen not to have children, and there are people who want children but cannot. And just like that, JD's smug little talking point was shredded like a cheap pillow in a house full of rescue cats. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay tuned with turbulent times. Whoopi wasn't just calling out a bad take, she was defending millions of women whose lives don't revolve around a picket fence and a playpen. And she wasn't subtle about it either. Because that's never been Whoopi's style. She didn't need to be outrageous, which she likes to be sometimes. She didn't need to shout this time either. All she had to do was speak the truth, plainly and powerfully. She didn't just defend women. She honored them. The ones raising kids, the ones living single, the ones fighting fertility battles in silence, and yes, even the ones curled up with 3 cats and zero interest in society's expectations.
Kamala Harris does not have the same baggage as Joe Biden because whatever you might say, Kamala Harris is a lot younger, and Kamala Harris is obviously not struggling in the same ways that Joe Biden did.
I'm going to pity this man.
All right.
Remember how Mr. T used to pity the fool?
Pity the fool. Yeah.
Well, I pity this man.
Yeah.
I pity him because he's had a very bumpy rollout so far. And here he is once again saying one thing in public and another thing in private. So how much of a liability is this guy becoming?
Oh, I think Trump is shaking. He's like, I picked the wrong guy. What did I do?
She said, not with fury, not with shade, but with a sigh so rich in disappointment it could have stopped time. I pity him. Oof, not anger, pity. The kind of pity you reserve for a guy who thinks he's scoring political points while tripping over his own ego. The kind of pity you give to someone who still thinks cat lady is an insult in the year 2025. And then she twisted the knife not with venom, but with pure, golden, Oscar-worthy sarcasm. She said Trump has to be regretting his decision. Because let's face it, Trump didn't pick JD Vance because he's charming, or smart, or experienced. He picked him because JD once wrote a book, kissed the MAGA ring, and looked like someone who might pass for serious on a debate stage. Instead, he's out here making viral headlines for dunking on women with cats and taking passive-aggressive shots at Kamala Harris like he's still mad she beat him at a Model UN competition. Whoopi was disappointed that a man who claims to represent working-class values couldn't see the value in women who lead lives outside his limited worldview. Disappointed that instead of bringing ideas, JD Vance brought insults. Disappointed that once again, the conversation around leadership had devolved into lazy comparisons and coded language.
Because I don't know what JD is doing. I hardly ever, I don't remember the last time we even talked about JD.
You're right. He's planning the presidency when they get rid of Trump.
So you think it's Musk Vance?
Possible.
Hey, you know who? Stay away from the stairways.
Whoopi said, I don't know what JD is doing anymore. She said, I honestly can't even remember the last time we talked about him. That's not shade, that's something worse. That's irrelevance, because in Whoopi's world, people who matter don't need to claw for attention by belittling women and throwing half-baked shots at Kamala Harris. And Vance? He didn't just show his hand. He showed he doesn't have a real plan, just punchlines. Whoopi also said, JD Vance is so desperate for the top job, he's probably planning to push Trump down the stairs just to speed things up. Because what else do you call it when your supposed second-in-command is spending more time undermining the previous vice president of the United States than offering any real vision of his own? Because that's the real issue here. JD Vance isn't acting like a second-in-command. He's acting like a man auditioning for a job he's hoping becomes vacant. Not tomorrow, not after an election, but any minute now. And while nobody believes he's out there greasing banisters and scouting stairwells, the political ambition is loud, and frankly, it's not subtle.
JD, clearly you've not been to one of your boss's rallies because you believe this insanity. I mean, he has been inciting violence since 2016, telling them to beat up hecklers, threaten to shoot looters and migrants.
JD Vance stood in front of a mic and suggested straight-faced that liberals were to blame for the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Let that sink in. Not the shooter, not extremism, not the very real and dangerous rhetoric that's been spewing from both sides of the aisle for years. Nope. According to JD Vance, it was liberals. Because here's the truth. Blaming liberals for a violent act committed by a lone individual is not just lazy, it's dangerous. It's the king of logic that gets weaponized. It's the kind of rhetoric that fans more flames. And Whoopi, being Whoopi, wasn't going to let that fly. He was calculating. You could hear it in his tone. This wasn't outrage. This was strategy and opportunity to link political opponents to violence and cast himself as the voice of law and order. That's what makes this moment so revealing. Because when a man aiming for the second highest office in the country uses a tragedy not to unify, not to reflect, but to blame, you see exactly what kind of leader he'd be. And Whoopi saw right through it.
As it turns out, I was filthy.
She was so filthy dirty, disgusting, half the place left. I said I'd never hire her again.
I was filthy. And stand on that fact. I headlined, babe, at your casino, which I might have continued to play had you not run it into the ground. So talk to William March. You hired me 4 times and you didn't know what you were getting? How dumb are you?
As if JD Vance hadn't stirred up enough chaos, best pal Donald Trump, never one to miss a moment of outrage, decided to take a swing at Whoopi Goldberg personally. He called her filthy. That's right, filthy. Because when you can't argue with someone's facts, you reach for the same tired insults you've been hurling since 1987. And most people might have gotten rattled by that. But not Whoopi. She just reminded the world that Trump had hired her. Not twice, not thrice, but 4 times. That's right. The same man who now claims to find her filthy is the same man who repeatedly signed off on her talent, her platform, and her voice. So while Trump was growing mud from the campaign trail, Whoop let the hypocrisy speak for itself. Because what does it say about you when the person you're calling disgusting is someone you used to pay to entertain your audience? That was before you crashed your casino to the ground and were never able to bring it back up. Seems like keeping Whoopi around might have been a smart idea.
You know, you can't refute anything with him because he just, when I say him, I mean...
He rambles.
Trump.
Yeah.
He tends to just...
But can I mention...
It's just textbook Trump. Rambling, off-topic, personal, and as usual, lacking any actual argument. You can't fact-check a rant. You can't respond to a man who throws out 5 different conspiracy theories before finishing a sentence. And that's the thing that really gets under Whoopi's skin. Not just the lies, but the way Trump talks in circles to avoid any real accountability. When Trump is confronted, he attacks. And when he's wrong, which is often, he just rambles until people forget what the original question was. Whoopi's been insulted before, she's been underestimated before. And she's survived all of it. So when Trump's name came up again, she said it calmly, clearly. Trump. Then paused and without a second thought, spit to the side. That's where Whoopi is with this man. It's not anger anymore, it's disgust. It's years of watching someone degrade every conversation he touches and then turn around and blame everyone else for the fallout. So, no, she doesn't argue back. She just says his name, spits, and moves on. So while JD Vance scrambles for relevance and Trump yells into the void hoping for validation, Whoopi Goldberg stands steady, not chasing claps, not bending to nonsense, just reminding the world what it looks like when truth doesn't flinch. And in times like these, that's the kind of power that still matters. If you enjoyed watching Whoopi Goldberg dismiss all of Vance's nonsense, you won't want to miss our video on Oprah Winfrey giving JD Vance a WWE smackdown.